holidays are gonna be awesome. I have a great idea, so I'm gonna get a plate and a bowl. All right, you guys, this is the simplest DIY, but it's gonna be perfect for having guests over this summer, or maybe you're having people over for dinner. Take your bowl and put some E6000 on the base, then add your plate on top of it. Wash it up really well, and then you can use it to display cookies, muffins, fruit, whatever you have for your party, and the tray only costs you $2.50. So when I was tooling around Dollar Tree like I normally do, I came across these really cute little soap containers, and I just thought the shape of these were really cute. Plus you got a lot of product with it. So what I decided to do was actually paint the container of this. This is like a 5-minute DIY. I had taken off all the labels to the soft soap. I took the lid off of the soap, and then I used a little bit of painter's tape at the top. And then all I did was spray paint this with a gray color. Once that dried, I put the lid back on, and this is how cute it looks in my bathroom for $1. So when I was shopping at Dollar Tree, I found these incense containers that I thought were really cute. I also grabbed some glass jars. So I wanted to make these incense containers lids for my jars. So they actually fit on there very nicely. So I'm gonna start by filling the incense hole at the top with some wood filler. I'll let that dry completely. Next, I'm going to spray paint the lids. I decided to go with a navy color, but you could go with any color that fits the color scheme of your bathroom. And I'm gonna start by spray painting them on the bottom. Once that dries, I'll come in and spray 2 coats on the top. Next, all you have to do is fill up your glass jars with any bathroom items that you want to put in there and just put the lids on top. These are going to look so cute sitting out in your bathroom and be totally functional as well. Sconces and wall lights are super popular right now. Everybody's wanting to add these into your house, but sometimes you may not know how to wire it in. So I want to give you an option that you don't have to wire in at all, and it's really affordable. So for this project, you're going to need one of their drying racks, a napkin holder from Dollar Tree. You're also going to need 2 puck lights from Amazon. I'll link them for you down in the description box, and a placemat. My placemat I actually purchased at Walmart. You want to get your drying rack from Dollar Tree because it's definitely going to be a little bit more flimsy and bendable. So I'm going to start with my drying rack, pushing it around my napkin holder to create a nice arch. Once I have it in the right shape, I need to attach the drying rack to my napkin holder. So I started this by adding in some floral wire. And this held it okay, but then I went in with a zip tie, and that worked even better to secure it in place. Once you have your base in place, now you can come in and wrap it around the edges. So I found a placemat that fit almost perfectly. I ended up having to cut some of the drying rack down at the bottom. Then I'm just going to wrap the placemat around, and I'll hot glue it in the back. I purchased my puck lights in a pack of 2. You're going to have to put a battery in them to make them work. Now to attach these, you're going to use the command strips that were provided. I'm going to put them on the back of my puck lights. Then I'm going to put one on the top of my napkin holder, and the other one I'm going to flip the sconce upside down and put it on the bottom part of my napkin holder. That way, when they're turned on, you're gonna have light illuminating from the top and the bottom. They're touch lights, so all you have to do is touch them to turn them on. You could also get remote ones that are a little bit more expensive if you wanna go that route as well. To attach these to the wall, all you have to do is put some command strips. And here's how it looks on my wall. Next, I'm going to be creating a decorative accent. All you're going to need are some foam balls. I got 2 different sizes from Dollar Tree, and also you're going to need some nautical rope. Now, I buy my nautical rope off of Amazon in a big spool. It's also available at Dollar Tree, so whichever works best for you. I'll put the link to the one I buy in the description box as well. So this is a really easy project to do. You're going to start by hot gluing your foam ball and wrapping your nautical rope around. You're going to do this till you get to the other side. Now it's okay if you leave a little bit of an opening on either side. Now when I did the first one, I realized I probably left a little bit too much of an opening, so I added some additional nautical rope to that one. I'm going to wrap the nautical rope going the other direction, making sure that I cover up that white space that I had on either one. So I'm just gonna wrap until I've covered the entire foam ball, and then I'll cut it off and hot glue it in place. I'm gonna repeat those same steps to create the second smaller foam ball. Now I just created 2, you could do all 5 or however many you want for your project, but they look great as a little accent sitting out in your decor. So I was on Pottery Barn's website looking for a little bit of inspiration, and I saw this set of marble like soap containers, toothbrush holders, and I thought we could recreate this from Dollar Tree. So I picked up a tray, soap dish, soap container, and toothbrush holder. And some of them were already white, but I wanted them to all be the same colors. So I just started by spraying those with 2 coats of white spray paint. Next, I wanted to give them a marble appearance. So what I did was I grabbed a tub of water. Now you guys have seen me do this on my channel before, and I wanted them to be like a gray color. So I had this spray paint that was kind of like a translucent that I decided to use for this project. So what you're gonna do is you're gonna spray your spray paint on the top of the water. What that's gonna do is it's gonna create fun little patterns. Then you can take your items and dip them into the water. Once you pull your item up, you're going to see whatever design you put in the water on your container. So I repeated this with all of my items to give them a marbled finish. I did have a little bit of trouble with the tray. I kind of had to move it around to get it in the water where I wanted it to. And the thing is if you don't feel like they have enough paint on them, just add more paint to your water and put your items back in until you get that desired look. Now another thing I do when I pull the items out, I'll take a paper towel and kind of wipe off any excess that I don't like the look of, and that just kind of helps as you're going through the process. Here's how my Dollar Tree marble containers look styled on my vanity. Next, I'm going to show you how I created a decorative vase. Now for this project, you're only going to need 2 items. You're going to need a clear vase from Dollar Tree. You're also going to need some of their bamboo skewers. Now you guys, I love these bamboo skewers. I use them in so many different crafts and DIYs, and this is the time of year to pick them up. You can grab them in the smaller size as well as the longer ones. I recommend grabbing a few packs of both of these. I wanted my bamboo skewers to go around my clear jar, so I needed to cut them down. So I was kind of experimenting with the best way to do this. So I laid them out on a board and I used some frog painter's tape to kind of hold them in place because I was hoping to cut them all at the same size. And I taped them on both sides. I figured out exactly where I wanted to cut them. I laid the clear vase down and then I drew a line across so I knew where they needed to be cut. Then I used my saw, which is great for cutting like smaller items. Then I sawed through the bamboo skewers. Now, as I was doing this, I was kind of moving them around and my lines weren't straight. And so I cut them about halfway and I figured that would be okay. For the rest of them, I would just kind of pop them off. Once you create a small cut, you can always like pop them off at the ends. This works well too. If you're just doing one of them, you can always cut it at the end and then pop off the excess. Next, I was going to attach my bamboo skewers to this clear jar. I found the E6000 was the best option. You want to put the E6000 on with just a little end of your bamboo skewer so that you're not adding too much glue, because we're not going to be painting this. You don't want a lot of excess glue. So I added a little bit at the top and a little bit at the bottom, put my bamboo skewer on. Then I went about a ½ an inch and put another one on. I did this all the way around the clear jar. Now E6000 usually takes overnight to dry, so I put some painter's tape really lightly around my jar. I didn't like press it down firmly, and I'm gonna let that sit overnight. The next day I came in and removed the painter's tape and everything was glued on really well. I styled this on my coffee table with a few faux stems. Another solar light idea that you can do, this one is going to be great for your outdoor dining tables, or maybe you have an outdoor coffee table. You want to pick up 5 more solar lights. These I got in the silver color. You're also going to need a 4x4 board. Now I grabbed mine at Lowe's, but you could pick it up anywhere. So the first thing I did was I just cut my board down to size based on the size of my coffee table. You can make this any size you want. You can make it smaller or bigger, but I just wanted it to fit well on my coffee table. This is actually a really easy DIY to do, but you are going to need some tools. Like, one of the tools you're going to need is a large set of drill bits to create holes for the solar lights to go in. I took the bottom piece off of my silver solar lights. I was trying to figure out which drill bit was going to be about the same size as my solar light. So once I picked one, I added it to my drill, and I will link to all these tools down in the description box for you guys. Next, I came in and I marked my board. My board was about 30 inches long, so every 5 inches I made a mark so I knew exactly where to drill. Next, I came in with my drill and drilled holes straight down. I then would put a solar light into that hole just to make sure it was going to fit in there securely. You can always adjust your drill bit size as well. Next, I sanded down my entire board and I came in with a dark stain. Now, to stain a board, I usually just will brush the color on and then I immediately wipe it off with a paper towel. Once your board is dry, you can add in your lights. And here's how this solar light centerpiece turned out. have you guys seen containers where people put in longer matchsticks or matchsticks with colors on them? I just find them really appealing. I feel like it's a really cute home decor piece that you can put out with your decor, and I wanted to recreate it for less. So I went to Dollar Tree and picked up some of their clear shower rings. Next, I'm gonna glue these together. So the glue that I'm using is a glue that holds really well, and it's gonna have to sit up overnight. So I added some glue around the edges and then put the rings on one by one. Now, once I had it stacked up, I set it to the side and let it dry overnight. Like, I didn't do anything to it. When I came back the next day, the glue was bonded really well. Next, I spray painted it with 2 to 3 coats of a white flat spray paint. I wanted it to have like a speckledy stone look to it. So I found this spray paint at Walmart. It's called Stone Spray Paint, and it's so cool. When you spray it on, it just gives it this muckledy finish to it. So I just lightly sprayed that on the entire piece. From there, you can add a little bit of filler to the base of this. Then you can add in your matchsticks. I grabbed mine off of Amazon. I'll link them for you in the description box. And I think this looks so cute sitting out next to candles or other decor. Recently, when I was at Dollar Tree, I came across these ferns, which are awesome greenery for Dollar Tree. I was so excited that they have something out like that. So I picked up a couple of them. I also picked up this large container. I think it's supposed to be a drinking cup, but I thought it would make a perfect vase. I started by spray painting the vase with 2 coats of white spray paint. Now I wanted it to have a speckled look to it, so I took some black paint and mixed it with water. Then I kind of just dabbed the paint onto my jar. I wasn't really liking the look of that, so then I came in with a sponge that you can pick up at Dollar Tree. So I dabbed it around and the spots were a lot more muted. With my ferns, I wanted to mimic the look of feathers or the pampas grass that you see everywhere that's so popular. I grabbed out some beigey colors that I had. Now, I know this color is a little different. It's a color that my husband had. It's a camouflage color. So I started by painting all of the ferns on both sides with this kind of dark tan color. Once that had a chance to dry, I realized that I wanted them to have a little bit more dimension. So I came back in with the lighter shade. Now I just did the lighter shade very sparingly, so it kind of gave me that two-toned effect. I added the ferns to my container, and here's a look at the final look. Now, when I was doing the DIY with the palette earlier, I was looking at it and thinking, you know, this would make a really cool soap dish because wood items are so in right now. All I did with this little palette was I stained it with 1 coat of that golden oak stain, and then I wiped it off with a paper towel. And I put it out with some decorative soap. Doesn't this look cute sitting out on my vanity? You guys are gonna have to let me know if you like it. So this next project is probably my favorite one that I created in this whole bundle. I love these little candy dishes that you can buy at Dollar Tree. Now these are located over in like the party supply section, and I always like to pick up 3. Groupings of 3 just, in my opinion, look so much better. So I'm going to start by putting a layer of painter's tape on the top of each of these containers. And I'm going to try to make them all look the same and have the tape at about the same level. Then I'm going to spray paint everything with a flat black spray paint. Now this is going to take at least 2 coats. And I also turned them so they were upside down so that I didn't spray the inside of my containers. Once that has a chance to dry, I will remove the tape. And then you could do so many things with this. I'm gonna be filling it with some natural stones from Dollar Tree and then putting in 3 of my favorite succulents. This is so quick and easy to do, and how adorable does this look sitting out on my table? So I love the look of wall hangings, but for me, they have to be super simple because I just don't have the patience to tie all of the knots. So here is a super simple macrame wall hanging that anyone can do. So what you want to do is pick up a plunger at Dollar Tree. Now, this next step is optional. I wanted to cut off the little ridge sections. I just used my saw to cut off that edge, but you don't have to do that. You could cover it up with the twine as well. Next, I'm gonna use some basic white yarn that I got at Michael's, but the last time I was at Dollar Tree, they had yarn, and this was my first time seeing it. So if you're lucky, you may be able to find some yarn at Dollar Tree. I know that they had white and a bunch of different other colors. I used 2 spools of yarn in order to do this entire wall hanging. So what I did was I just took 1 piece of yarn, wrapped it around the edge, tied it in place, and then I made a hanger on both sides, wrapped it around, tied it so it was secure so I could hang it up. Now, whenever you're doing a wall hanging, you want to make your pieces longer than what you think, because once you start either tying knots or doing different things to it, it's going to make your yarn a lot shorter. So I'm using a piece of wood that's about 2 feet long. I started wrapping the yarn around this wood about 14 times. Then when I got a bundle done, I took it off the wood and I cut one of the edges. And I repeated this for all of my bundles. Once I had all my bundles created, I put them over on top of my wood dowel rod. Now here's where the super easy part comes in. I got some clear rubber bands from Dollar Tree. These are just in the hair section. You can use them on like little kids' hair. Once I put the yarn over, I took a rubber band and tied it at the top. And I did that with all of my yarn bundles that I put on. Next, I'm going to do another rubber band about 1 inch down all the way across. So I wanted to create a V pattern. So in order to do that, all I did was I left out one of the yarn hangings on either side every time I went down so that it gradually created my V shape until I was only left with 1 rubber band. I promise this was totally easy to create. To finish it off, you want to cut the edges. Now, sometimes I will cut at a V shape, but I figured since it's already doing a V shape with my rubber bands, I wanted to cut it straight across, which is a little bit harder. So I just did my very best to try to smooth the yarn out, and then I cut it straight across. And as you can see, I think it looks adorable, especially here on my backdrop. So when I was on McGee & Co.'s website, I found this next wall art piece and it was so incredibly overpriced, but honestly so simple and something I knew that I could recreate. This wall art was over $3,000, so I thought, let's go ahead and recreate it. I found a pack of canvases at Five Below that I picked up for $5. Now for this project, you're just going to need some macrame cord and some nautical rope. I'm gonna link both of the ones that I use on a regular basis in the description box below. Now on each of my canvas, I marked where I wanted the center strip to be on both of the canvases. I started with one of my yarns and I hot glued it to the back, and then I wrapped it around, hot glued it to the other side where I'd measured, and then I continued to wrap it around, hot gluing it periodically. Now some of my tips whenever you're wrapping yarn or cord around a canvas, you want to try to keep the yarn or twine as close as you can. It just gives it much more of a high-end look and it looks a lot more seamless. Now for this project, you want to try to keep it as level as possible. That's just going to help you when you get to the ends. So I wrapped the cord around the middle, and then once I got to my other lines that I had marked off, I just hot glued it in place and cut off the excess. Now I'm going to take my other rope and hot glue that to the edge where I just stopped on my center portion, and I'm going to wrap that, hot gluing it until I get to the very end. Now, once you get to the end, you want to start adding in more hot glue just so that it gives it more longevity. It's going to hold in place when it's hanging on your wall. And I'm going to wrap it around, also making sure to completely cover your canvas. You want to make sure your canvas is completely covered, and then you can hot glue the excess onto the back. Once I do one side, I'm going to flip and do the other side. Now, I was thinking this project was actually going to take a while, but it went considerably faster than I thought. So if you're hesitant to try it, it really wasn't that long to create. Now you're going to repeat these steps on your second canvas, but you're just going to switch the materials. So you're going to start with your macrame, putting that on in the middle, and then for your edges, you can add on your nautical rope. You're going to follow the same tips by making sure you add it really close together and covering the canvas on either of the edges. I really love this grouping of two. It adds so much texture to my walls. Next, we're gonna be making a hanging planter. I love the way hanging planters look. They're great for like a corner of your office. You could also put them in your kitchen, and bathrooms are great for these as well, because sometimes bathrooms are small and you don't have a lot of room to decorate. So you could put one of these kind of maybe over like in your toilet area. That's a great option for these as well. So you're gonna take any small container. This is one I actually picked up at the thrift store, and I'm gonna spray it with 2 coats of a flat black spray paint. Now to create the hanging portion of my planter, I wanted to use some faux leather. I wasn't able to find any at Dollar Tree, and I went online and found this whole pack of faux leather on Amazon that I probably could use for a ton of projects for super inexpensive. I'll link to it down in the description box for you guys if you want to check it out. I'm going to use this medium faux leather color. So I'm going to start by cutting out a square that's going to fit up nicely around my planter. Next, I wanted to create holes on the edges of the square that I cut out. So I'm just going to use my scissors and my wire cutters to cut a little hole. Now I don't want it to be too big because I'm actually trying to put in some nautical rope in there, and if it's too big, the nautical rope's just going to pull through. So I did kind of a smaller hole. Next, I'm going to be using my nautical rope. This again, I'll link for you guys. You guys know I use this all the time, but I'm going to cut off a long strip. I'm actually going to make 4 strips to use for this project. I'm gonna pull the nautical rope through. The faux leather I wanna show is actually gonna be placed on the bottom. Once I pull the rope through, I'm gonna tie it in a knot on the bottom. I'm gonna repeat this with all 3 of my other sides. Now, once I get all the rope through, I'm going to put my planter in the middle. I'm gonna cut off any extra string down at the bottom of my knots. And the plant that I'm gonna be using is one that I love from IKEA. It's this big hanging plant. It's usually out this time of year, but it's around $5, $6. It's so great, you guys. I have several of these. If you have an IKEA, I would definitely pick it up. So I'm gonna put that plant in the middle. I'm gonna pull up on my planter just to kind of see how it looks. I'm gonna tie those together. And here's how this planter looks hanging up. I just think it's adorable. So Pottery Barn has this really cool white mirror with like this white background, and I just love the look of it. I knew that I could recreate this. So I grabbed a piece of white foam board from Dollar Tree. I also had one of their black circle mirrors already on hand. They sell these at Dollar Tree. So I'm gonna remove the mirror portion out of the frame, and then I'm gonna paint the frame with 2 coats of white spray paint. Then I used a straight edge and traced out where I wanted to cut. Next, I decided to use the X-Acto knife that they have in the craft section at Dollar Tree for this project. And I will say it did cut really well. I was able to cut the foam board with 2 cuts. Now, sometimes when you cut foam board, it's not perfect on the edges. So I went back in with just a little piece of sandpaper and I sanded it down until it looked, exactly the way I needed it to look. Next, I'm going to assemble my mirror. Then I'll add some hot glue to the back of the mirror and put it onto my foam board. And here's a look at how the mirror looks styled. Now the next DIY is kind of like a 2-parter DIY. I had this wood slab piece that I wanted to create a riser with. So I also found these hexagon beads off of Amazon, and I'm going to hot glue 4 of those to the bottom of my wood piece. Now this created a really cute riser for me. Now on top of the riser, I wanted to add some fun jars that would look kind of cute this spring. So you can get these jars at Dollar Tree. These 2 jars I had were actually from the thrift store. I'm gonna be using a spray paint called Krylon Sea Glass, and I have one that's in like a green color, but I also have an amber color as well. You guys are seeing me test out one of my new favorite products, which is this little turnstile that I got for spray painting. I love this so much for spray painting when it's cold outside because I can turn it as I'm spray painting and kind of spray it, but then it has handles down at the bottom so I can lift it up and take it inside to dry, because you guys know you can't leave things outside when it's not warm enough to dry. So I will link this product for you down in the description box, but I think I'm gonna buy a couple more of these because you guys know I'm spray painting all the time. So I did 1 light coat of spray paint on both of the jars. Next, I have this wood bendable piece that I will link for you as well that I'm gonna cut off and make a little base at the bottom. So I made sure I just had enough that it would go over the other wood piece, maybe like a couple of centimeters. Then I'm gonna add some E6000 to the back of these pieces. I'm also gonna put hot glue so it stays in place, and I'm gonna wrap it around the bottom edge. Here's how these vases turned out with my wood riser. In my last Five Below video, I picked up this rug. I had no idea what I was gonna do with it. It has actually been sitting in my office for a while, and I've been thinking, okay, what do I wanna do with this? So I had this idea that maybe I should try to make it into a like wall art piece. So I grabbed one of those plastic trays from Dollar Tree for this project. I cut out my rug so that it just hung over the edges of this tray about 2 inches. I placed some Mod Podge on the bottom of my tray. Then I put the rug in place. Then I was noticing that the Mod Podge wasn't holding it in place, so I came back in and added in some hot glue as well. To finish off the edges, I cut off any excess, and then I turned it to the back side and hot glued it in place. Now, after I hot glued, I noticed that some of the rug was coming up. So I just took a plate and put it down on top of that with a weight to hold it in place until it had a chance to completely dry with the Mod Podge. And I styled it on my dresser with a few other items, and I just think it looks awesome. Next, I'm going to show you how to make some adorable triangle coasters slash trivets. You could really use either one with just 2 products. So you're going to need some felt. I think if you have a little bit stronger felt that doesn't bend as well, that's probably going to work best for this project. I picked up a felt in a cream color. You're also going to need these half circle beads. Now, I've used these in projects before. I'll link them for you down in the description box. And then you're going to need some sort of adhesive. I recommend something like E6000 or a construction grade adhesive that kind of sets up overnight. So I'm going to start by creating a triangle shape. So I'll put my beads down at the bottom and I'll go until I get to the top. So for my trivet, I didn't want to see the felt underneath, and the only way I could figure out how to do that was to place the beads on there and then cut it. So that's kind of what I did. I put all my beads on there and then I cut both of the edges. Now, some of my beads fell off as I was doing that, but that was no big deal. I could just place my beads back in place, and then that way I was assured that you weren't going to see the felt underneath. So I created 3 different trivets using the same method. I just changed up the size. Now, if you want them to all be the same size, you could do that. I wanted mine to have a little bit of variation. But here is how these trivets slash coasters turned out. When I'm at Dollar Tree, I always walk past those green wreath forms and I don't ever pick them up, but I thought, you know what? I'm gonna grab a stack of these and do a DIY with them. So we're gonna turn these wreath forms into a vase slash planter that I've seen on a bunch of different high-end sites. So I'm gonna start by taking off the tags that are on there. Luckily, these came off pretty easily. So I want to stack them up. So this is really easy to do. I'm just going to hot glue and stack them on. Now you want to make sure that you concentrate your glue on the inside so you don't see glue on the outside. That never looks good. Now I started by putting some E6000 with it, but as I was going up, I realized that hot glue would work just as well. As I was stacking them, I added some additional hot glue to the inside for added support. Next, I'm going to take this outside. I ended up doing 3 coats of a cream colored spray paint on here because this is foam. So it's going to absorb that spray paint and just kind of soak it up. So you're gonna have to do probably 3 heavy coats on here. So I just did 3 coats, letting them dry in between. I'm gonna put this on my spray paint turnstile I bought. I'll link it for you guys down in the description box. I just purchased this and it's so cool. I love it for spray painting. Now to give it kind of that higher end look, I found this spray paint called Stone, and that is going to give a cool speckledy look. So I'm just gonna spray 1 coat all along the edge. A little of this goes a long way, so you don't wanna spray a ton of it. Once that had a chance to dry, you can put any stems in here, but I wanted to use the Dollar Tree just to kind of show you guys how you could do this with Dollar Tree items. So I'm gonna fill the bottom. You could put in really anything. Walmart sacks, Dollar Tree sacks work great. And then Dollar Tree has several new spring stems out. These are the ones that I picked up, and I'm just going to place those in my container. Now, if you want more of like a long arrangement, you can do that as well, but you'll probably have to pick those up at like Walmart or Hobby Lobby. And here's how this planter turned out. may have seen this next item that I found in the stores. I thought they would be such a cool patchwork wall art, so I picked up 6 of them. I have a lot of sample paints around my office, and I grabbed some different sample paints. I grabbed 5 of them that I thought would coordinate well together and were colors that I wanted displayed in my home. And I think the best way to apply your paint is with a flat brush. So I used a flat brush and painted on the interior portion of the hexagons. As I began painting, I really wanted to lay them out together to make sure that I was happy with where all the colors were. So I laid them out and kind of picked my colors as I went. Once I got all the painting done, I E6000'd them together just to hold them in place. Let that sit overnight. The next day I wanted to give even more additional support to this, so I flipped it onto the back and I just took some popsicle sticks that I had. You could really use any wood piece that you have. I broke them in half and then I hot glued each of the seams on the patchwork wall art. And you could hang this up in your home, and I just love the texture that it provides, and it's a super unique wall art piece. So one of the questions I get asked frequently is about the centerpiece box that I use on several of my videos. So I actually wanted to create another centerpiece box with wood that I had in my garage. So I found 2 scrap boards that were 1x6 boards. Now I had to use 2 because that was what I had in my garage. If I would have gone out and bought them, I probably just would have had 1 board, but I wanted to make use out of what I had. So I took those 2 boards and I put them next to each other. That was going to be the base of my box. Then I found a 1x2 board. I use these frequently. They make really great borders, and I'm going to measure the edges of my boards and cut out 2 small pieces to go on the edge. And then I'm going to measure the front side to have 2 boards that are going to go on the front and the back. These boards are just the right size to make a nice little lip around my centerpiece box. Now, before I put them together, I wanted to stain all of the boards. So I stained them with golden oak. So for the 2 boards in the middle, I'm going to put them together with wood glue. I just bought a new tool, this finishing nailer I'm super excited about. This is the same one that my friend Christina, the DIY mommy, used, and she told me this is the one I needed to get, so that's the one I got. She really likes this. So I'm going to take the finishing nailer and I'm going to nail in the boards on the side, and then I will nail on the boards to the front and the back. Now to decorate my board, I found these really cute vases at Dollar Tree, so I picked up 5 of them, and I'm just going to spray them with a black spray paint. Now to fill these, I found these green sprigs at Hobby Lobby, so I'm just going to put these florals in, but really you could use any florals. And here's a look at how the centerpiece turned out. So for our next project, you're going to need some glass bottles from Dollar Tree. Really, any size will work, but these 2 that I have fit a taper candle in there very well. You're also going to need some eucalyptus. Now, the one I got, I purchased at Target, but you can also buy real eucalyptus at Trader Joe's, so that's an option as well. So I'm going to start by cutting my greenery and adding that into my bottle. Next, I had a variety of taper candles on hand. Most of my taper candles I purchased at Walmart. So I'm just gonna put a taper candle in the top of all of my bottles. Now, if for some reason your tapered candle is too big, you can always kind of shave it off on the side so it fits into your jar. Now, I decided to fill the bottles with water as well. This is an optional step. You could leave the water out if you wanted to. I think this is such a fresh and fun project for spring, and it's gonna look so pretty sitting out. When I was in Dollar Tree and found this rainbow sign, I knew exactly what I wanted to do with it. I knew it was going to be perfect for a macrame wall hanging because rainbows are so popular right now. I'm sure you guys have been seeing them everywhere. Now, this is a super simple project. All you're going to need is some yarn of your choice. I really wanted some thick yarn. The yarn that I'm using, I actually purchased at the thrift store. I think one of them I may have gotten from Walmart. You can get yarn from Dollar Tree as well, but you can definitely find other places to buy it super inexpensive. Now, whenever you're making a macrame piece, I always find that it's better to keep your pieces longer because you can always go back in and trim them a little bit. I'm going to start in the outside edge. So I'm going to pull my piece long and then I'm going to hot glue it around the outside edge. Now the key here is to make sure that you cover all of that wood because you don't want it to show through. I'm going to keep cutting pieces about the same length at the bottom. I'm going to bring them up and hot glue them next to the piece that I had just put in. Now again, make sure that you're making these pieces tight together so you can't see any of the wood or sign behind it. That's one of the major keys when you're doing these macrame pieces. So I really didn't have much of a plan. I just put on yarn until I was happy with it. Then I switched to another color. And then I finished it off with a third color. Now I love macrame because you can really cater this to your taste, put as many colors as you like, or just do it all in one color. Now, once I had all the pieces on there, I hung it up and I cut them straight across. You could also cut them at an angle if you'd like to do that as well. And I love how this looks. I even put it up on my backdrop. I'm gonna be creating another planter using that green planter, but it's gonna look totally different than the first one we made. Dollar Tree also sells these wood pieces, so I'm going to get that out and measure out. I want 4 pieces that are 2 inches long. Then I'm gonna use my saw and cut those pieces up. You guys have probably seen the planters that have the little wood bases. That's what I'm trying to recreate. So I'm gonna use some E6000 and hot glue to attach those wood pieces to the bottom of my green container. You can fill this planter with any faux plant or real plant that you like. So this next DIY I did was kind of interesting because part of it failed and part of it looked really great. So I'm gonna show you how I did it, and I know what I should have done to make it better. So I'll let you know that so that you don't make the same mistake that I did. So I've noticed on high-end sites, they have a lot of sculptural style pieces, and I wanted to try to create one of my own. So you're going to need some sort of base. I'm gonna start with those wood slices, and I'm gonna put some wood filler in those wood slices because there was a little hole in there and I wanted to make sure that I covered that up. So I'm also going to be using dowel rods for this project. I'm going to cut the dowel rods to the size that I want to use. The other things I'm going to be using are floral wire from Dollar Tree, and I'm also going to be using the wood beads I use in all of my projects. Now I'm going to start by shaping my wire into kind of like a horseshoe shape, maybe a little bit more curved, like almost a circle that's not closed at the top. And one of the circles I'm actually going to make larger than the other. And I'm gonna start stringing the beads onto my wire. So here's where I made my first mistake. With my larger circle, I should have used 2 or 3 wires because the wire I used was not strong enough in the end to hold up this one. Now my smaller one, it held up just fine. I didn't have any problems, but I did have problems with the larger one kind of toppling over. So right here, I would have put in some more wires with this one. So I strung all my beads on. Once I got to the top, I used hot glue at the top of the bead to hold all the beads in place. Next, I'm gonna take a dowel rod and I'm gonna hot glue that to the center portion of my beads. And I'm going to put a lot of hot glue on there. I'm gonna push it to where it's connected to my beads. Once that dries, let it dry, let it set. I'm going to add some hot glue to the back of my beads as well. And then I'm gonna hot glue the dowel rod to the base. I'm gonna start by putting a little bit of hot glue and then I'm gonna build it up. I'm actually gonna add quite a bit more hot glue, making sure I hold on to it until it has a chance to set. Now, once all that is done, I'm gonna spray the entire piece with 2 coats of a matte black spray paint. Now, for the first 2 days that I had this, everything was fine. They stood up great, everything was great. But by like the second and third day when I started to take pictures, one of them just wasn't standing up. So the picture I have to show you is of the smaller one because the smaller one is great. So if you do this project, make sure you use a little bit more wire or maybe more of a heavy duty wire. I have to say this trip was pretty exciting for me. I was so excited to find the ferns, but I was probably equally as excited to find these baskets. Dollar Tree now has these really cute baskets. So I picked one up, not really knowing what I was going to do with it. So I've been noticing a lot of the baskets at Pottery Barn and in the stores have these braided handles or some kind of handle on it. I thought that'd be great to update our basket. So I grabbed out some nautical rope and then I also had this really pretty navy blue yarn from Dollar Tree. I hope you guys are able to find the yarn that they have at Dollar Tree now. So I'm gonna be making handles with my nautical rope. I cut it down so that it would fit nicely on the side of my basket, and then I made an identical piece. Next, I started my yarn up about 2 inches from the bottom of my nautical rope and hot glued it, and then I began wrapping it around. I hot glued it periodically, but you really don't need to add much hot glue. And I wrapped it around until I got to about leaving another 2 inches on the other side. Hot glued that in place and cut off the excess. Now with my ends that are sticking out, I wanted these to look like fringe, so I just kind of unraveled them and made them look fringy. Is fringy a word? I don't think that's a word. Next, I'm going to hot glue these handles to the side. Now, they're not going to be on there super secure, so they're more of a decorative handle, but you could always, you know, sew them on if you wanted them to be really secure, or you could always use E6000. So I'm going to use some hot glue and hot glue them in place. I'm going to make an identical handle for the other side of my basket. And I styled this with a plant, but you could style it any way you like. And I'm so in love with these baskets. So at a lot of the high-end stores, I'm seeing a lot of vases that have texture on it. So I wanted to create a version of that. So I got another one of the clear glass containers. I mean, I have so many of these, it's just not even funny. And then I also picked up a thing of the pearls. So I'm going to start by putting the pearls on this container. At first, I really didn't know exactly how I was going to do this, but I kind of came up with a pattern as I was working. So I started by just doing a one strip around the top. And then I decided, let's create some triangles on either side. And it ended up that they worked out perfectly. I ended up having like the exact right amount. I don't even know how that happened. But to do this, all I did was take 4 of the little pearls, put them down. Then I did 3, 2, and 1. And then I switched from there on the opposite side, doing the exact same thing. So 4, 3, 2, and 1 on the pearls. And I did that all the way around. And now the great thing about these pearls is they have adhesive on them, so you don't have to glue them or anything. And I didn't have any problems with them coming off. Next, I took this and spray painted it with 2 coats of black spray paint. And I think this looks great sitting out on my hutch. Love the look of these hooks. If you guys know anything about buying hooks, they can be really expensive. So I'm gonna grab some of these. Also gonna grab these little wood decor pieces. I have a DIY in mind for them. They come in wood, but you can also get them in these different colors as well. So on a higher end website, I found this like message board coat hanger, and it was really cool, but I definitely knew that I could recreate it with Dollar Tree items. So I'm gonna do a DIY with some items that I found. I'm going to start with the 2 seahorse signs, and I want to connect these 2 signs. I had some large popsicle sticks that I already had in my stash. I'm going to push the 2 signs together, and then I'm going to put hot glue on the popsicle sticks and put them on the back of the sign. I'll do this all the way across, and then I wanted it to be even more stable, so I came back in between and added some more popsicle sticks. I just cut the top portion off. I also grabbed a box from Dollar Tree and some wood pieces, and I cut the wood pieces in half. But with all of my pieces, I stained them in the color golden oak. I'm just gonna use a piece of a foam brush to put the stain onto my boxes, and then I'll immediately wipe it off with a paper towel. If you want the stain color to be more intense, just leave the stain on a little bit longer before you take the excess off. From there, I laid out where I wanted the components on the box where I felt like it would fit best for me. To add them to the supporting piece, I put some E6000 on there. I also added hot glue, so I got that instant hold, but that E6000 is a really great bond, and it's gonna hold up better. With the hangers that I found in that new Shore Living section, I'm going to remove those. I'm going to place 3 of them onto my organizer. I'm going to line them up straight and mark holes for where I'm going to drill the holes. With my drill, I'm going to drill through the wood, and then I'll place the hangers back on and use the same screws that they came with to attach them to the board. Now I wanted those pieces that I put on there with glue to be really sturdy, so I drilled holes from the back and then added in additional screws to make sure that it was nice and supported. On one of the Shore Living coat hangers, there's a little backing piece. I removed that. I put that on the back of my piece so it would hang on the wall. Now, if you didn't want to hang it on the wall, you could always add magnets and put it on your fridge, but here's how it looks hanging on the wall. You can put all of your daily use items on here. So I found a lot of great things in the serving aisle, and one of the things that I came across was this really cool serving bowl, and I loved that it had this like great texture on it. So I'm going to spray paint it with 2 coats of white spray paint. So once that is completely dry, then I'm gonna get out a color called Elephant by Waverly. And I'm also gonna grab one of my large foam brushes. Now I'm gonna put a little bit of that paint on the foam brush, not a lot because I want this to be a light layer. And then I'm just going to brush lightly that elephant paint onto my textured piece. Now I'm trying to just do a top layer so that I really get that texture popping out. So you could always go back and add more paint. So start lightly and then you can always add more. I think this is a great decorative bowl that you could put as a centerpiece or out on your countertop. Now, if you're looking for bathroom storage ideas at Dollar Tree, make sure you go to the glass jar section because these are some of the best things you can get to organize your bathroom. I got the largest jars that I could find. I bought them in a set of 3. Sets of 3 just look great. So I always try to buy things in sets of 3 if I can. Next, I'm going to spray paint the lids with 2 coats of a white spray paint. Then I came in with some Rub and Buff and put that around the edges. Next, I'm going to come in with some gold handles that I already had on hand. These were ones that I was using in another project that I bought on Amazon. If I can find them, I will link them for you guys in the description box. And I just used some E6000 to attach those to the top of the lids. Make sure you're using E6000 or construction style adhesive glue for this because other glues are just not going to hold these in place. And that's all there is to this. These are great for all those little items that you have out in your bathroom. So I needed a canvas. Now at Dollar Tree, their biggest canvas is, I think 11 by 14, but it's not a thick one. So I wanted one that was a little bit bigger. A place that I have found that you can get a really good deal is at Five Below. You can get a pack of 2 canvases that are 16 by 20, which I think is a great deal for $5. So I'm gonna use a 16 by 20 canvas. I'm also going to be using the twine that you can pick up in the Crafter's Square. Now I believe for this project, I ended up using 9 rolls of it. You could also get a larger roll off of Amazon, but I wanted to show you how you could do it with Dollar Tree items. Now, this project, I have to say, took me a while to do, but it's super simple. So what you're gonna do is you're gonna start by gluing your twine to the back of your canvas. Then you're just going to start wrapping it in one direction. You wanna make sure that your twine is really close together so you can't see the white behind it. Once you're happy with how far you've made it, just hot glue it to the back and cut off the excess. From there, you're gonna switch directions. So if you were horizontal, now you wanna add your twine vertically. And again, you wanna come back in and do it opposite every time. You want to kind of move around where you're putting it so that it's not always in the same location. What that's going to do, it's going to create kind of like a fun overlapping pattern. You'll just continue adding twine until you get the entire piece covered. This looks great in a grouping of wall art, or I think it can definitely stand on its own. But the cost of this wall art piece was around $12. For this next project, I had a vision in mind, but I wasn't sure it was going to totally work out. So I had my husband help me with the measurements just because he's really good at that. So it ended up working out. So I'm really excited to show this one to you. So what you're gonna need for this project are 2 of the Dollar Tree cutting boards. So we marked both of the boards at 5.5 inches. Then we traced the edge of the cutting board because we were going to be cutting it out. But we were only going to be cutting out half of the cutting board. So we marked up 3.5 inches. Now here's where we got a little tripped up. We had to figure out which sides we were going to cut so that they sandwiched together. So we kind of drew a little line to know which side to cut. Next, we used a saw to cut out the notches on both of the cutting boards. Now that the hard part was out of the way, all we had to do was sandwich the two together to create a perfect little book holder. This is great to set out as a coffee book holder, or you could also use it when displaying a cookbook. And I'm really excited how this turned out for only $2. Now, we all love the planters that they have at Dollar Tree, and I'm always trying to think of new ways that I can dress them up a little bit. So I had this basket weave gray planter that I just think is adorable. I love it so much. I'm gonna start by wrapping some twine around it 3 times. Once I wrap it around 3 times, I'm going to tie it in place. Now I wanted to add some beads to the front of it. I had some gray beads as well as like some smaller, like natural colored beads. Now to lace the beads on, I find that it's easier if I wrap a little bit of tape at the bottom of my twine, and it just, I don't know, I feel like it strings the beads on there so much easier. So I'm gonna alternate my beads, adding 6 beads on each of my twine pieces. Then I will tie the twine together. Now I wanted to create a little tassel, so I'm going to take the twine and I'm just going to wrap it around my hands until I have as much as I think it'll look nice and full. I'll take that piece and I'm going to tie it to the bottom of where I had the beads, and I'll just tie that in a double knot. Next, I'm going to wrap it to make it look like a tassel. So I'm going to hot glue some twine to the back of the piece, kind of at the top, and I'll just wrap it around and then hot glue it to the back, cutting off any excess. Now to make it look like a tassel, I'll cut it at the bottom, and then I'm gonna trim the tassel so all of the pieces are the same size. You can dress this up with any plant that you have around your house, but it just gives it a little something extra. So for this DIY, you're going to need 3 candle snuffers from Dollar Tree. You're also gonna need 3 succulents. And then I also grabbed 3 wood boards in different sizes from Lowe's. Now, if you have a pair of wire cutters, that's gonna work the best for this DIY. You're gonna cut your candle snuffer right at that base where the handle is attached to it. Next, I'm going to hot glue my succulents into my candle snuffers. Now, I added quite a bit of hot glue to the base of these and then just put the succulents in. Now, once I got to this point, I realized that I didn't like the base of the candle snuffers, so I grabbed some of my faux leather and I hot glued it to the back. I wrapped it around twice and then cut off the excess and just hot glued that in place. I felt like this did a good job of kind of finishing off that bottom piece. And then I positioned my succulents where I wanted to hot glue them down. And then from there, all I had to do was hot glue them to the wood pieces. Now, to hang this on the wall, you could always put hangers on there. I've been loving using command strips on the back, so you just grab a couple of command strips. I'll link to the ones I use down in the description box, and then you can just place them on the wall. And here's how this wall art piece turned out. I love the way that plants brighten up any space, especially a bathroom, so I wanted to create a plant holder. I had these 4 Dollar Tree frames that I think I bought maybe a couple of months ago, but you can probably find something similar at Dollar Tree because they pretty much keep the same frames out most of the year. So you're gonna need 4 for this project. Now, mine are black and gold. I love the color of them. So I went through and I pulled out that backing piece in the frame. So I wanted to have some kind of black and white picture in the frame. I grabbed some of this adhesive wallpaper off of Amazon, but you could use scrapbook paper, wrapping paper, anything you have on hand for this project, just whatever your needs are. And I'm gonna trace that around my paper where I wanna cut it out. I'm gonna cut out the 4 squares. And then I'll put the squares back into my frames. I did pull off that backing piece of the frame because I'm not going to need that. Then from there, I hot glued the frames together so they created a box. Now, I'm not worried about creating a base to this because it's always gonna be sitting down, that it doesn't really need a base. From there, you can style it with your favorite plant or faux plant. One of the best ways to get a higher end look at Dollar Tree is to go for items that are in the glassware section, because you can spend so much more on glassware and it's literally the same thing you can buy at Dollar Tree. So I found these 2 interesting vases that I wanted to dress up a little bit from Dollar Tree. So I have this product, you guys have heard me talk about it before, it's called Rub and Buff. I'll link it for you down in the description box. I use it all the time, I know, but I just love it. So I'm gonna be using a little bit of one of the gold colors, and to paint onto your piece, you can use this for anything, metals, glasses. I'm just going to use a foam brush, and when you put this product on, you almost wanna dab it on. It actually goes better when you do it that way. I'm gonna dab it on the lid of one of the pieces. Now for the littler jar, I'm gonna tape it off with frog tape and just dab it on the bottom. I'll remove the frog tape, and literally this is a 5-minute craft you can do, but look how cute these vases look. One of the new items I was excited about at Dollar Tree are these ceramic containers. Now, I think Dollar Tree had an idea of making these like frames that you could use for a wedding, but I had something completely different in mind. There's 3 different shapes. There's like a rectangular one, a circular one, and then this other one that looks kind of like a butterfly. I also picked up some stickers. So I started by taking the frame pieces off the back as well as the stickers on the back. Now I saw in my mind soap dish, trinket tray, all those things for these. I thought they'd be perfect for a bathroom. One of my tricks for whenever you want to put stickers on any surface, cut it out first and actually put it onto your tray. That way you can get a visual, kind of move things around until you make that commitment of actually sticking it in place. So I cut out all the stickers, and that's what I did. I just kind of moved them around until I was happy with the placement of them. Then I just stuck them onto the ceramics. Again, I'm going to be using that same Mod Podge that I used earlier. It's a blue dishwasher safe Mod Podge, and I'm going to be doing a thick coat on each of the ceramic containers. Once that dries, you can add them to your bathroom. You could put a soap container on there. You could also put little decorative soaps, or maybe even leave it out for like rings or earrings.
What are you doing? You're always on the floor.
Just at Dollar Tree planning DIYs. I know, I shouldn't be on the floor. They have a bunch of new mirror selections right now, so I'm thinking they would make a really great wall art grouping. The thing about decor at Dollar Tree is a lot of times it's smaller, so you need to get multiple items to make it look more substantial. So I'm gonna grab 5 different styles of mirrors, and then I'm gonna make them look similar and show you how to put them as a wall art piece. The first thing I did for this project was add tape to all of the mirrors so that when I was spray painting them, I wouldn't get any paint on the actual mirror portion. If you do get a little bit of paint, you can always scrape it off, but I just prefer to do this at the beginning of the project. I wanted to change the appearance of a couple of the mirrors, so I grabbed some Dollar Tree bamboo skewers, and I'm going to place them on the back and just hot glue them in place. I kind of was just figuring this out as I went. I ended up cutting down some of the skewers. I was hot gluing them in place, but this was a lot of fun, just kind of figuring out how to add a little bit of depth to each of the mirrors. And then I added some tape to the back to just kind of hold it in place. Then with my other mirror, I thought that one would look great if I just did 4 dowel rods. So I put one coming out of each of the corners. Those are the only 2 mirrors that I added wood dowels to. Next, I'm going to spray the back side of all the mirrors with this like aged gold spray paint. I turned all of the mirrors over and spray painted the front. Next, I'm going to be using Rub and Buff. Now, I wanted my mirrors to have different colors of gold. That's just going to give it a lot more dimensions. I'm going to add the Rub and Buff with a foam brush across the mirrors. It's not going to completely cover what I spray painted, but it's going to be a nice highlight or accent color. Once that had a chance to dry, I removed the tape. And again, I think the best way to add these to your walls would be to use command strips. Another tip you can try is to lay them out on your floor before you actually place them on your wall to figure out the configuration you want. But here's how these mirrors turned out, and for under $10, I have a really pretty grouping of mirrors. I picked up a planter from Dollar Tree. I'm also going to be using some nautical rope that I had on hand, and don't worry, I'll link all the supplies that I used down in the description box. So with my planter, I wanted to hot glue my nautical rope so it created an X on my planter. So I figured out how long I needed the pieces to be, cut them off, and then cut off several pieces that were going to be the same length. I hot glued the nautical rope in one direction on my planter. I came back through and hot glued the other way with pieces that I had cut. Once I had all of the X's done, I decided to add some handles as well. So I hot glued handles on either side of my planter. So here's where the fun part comes in. I grabbed some Quickcrete from Lowe's and I'm gonna use that to make this planter look concrete. So you're going to get your Quickcrete and mix it with some water. Now, typically I like the consistency of my Quickcrete to be a little bit like pudding, but I wanted it to be a little bit thinner so that I could use it to paint all over this planter. But the cool thing is if you get it too runny, you can add more Quickcrete, and if it's too thick, just add more water. Next, I'm gonna take a foam brush. You need something that's gonna be disposable, and I'm gonna paint all around my planter, covering it completely. Now you wanna make sure you really get around all the nautical rope, and I'm gonna let this dry completely overnight. Once it sits overnight, now you have a really cool concrete planter that you can put any plant in to display. This next piece is a wall art piece, so you're gonna need to grab 2 canvases from Dollar Tree. You're also going to need a stick from your backyard. I love going out in my backyard and grabbing sticks, so just grab a couple for this project. They don't need to be too big. And then you're going to need some yarn in whatever color you wanna use. I just grabbed some from my stash, but they also sell yarn at Dollar Tree. So I'm gonna start by hot gluing my stick to the center of my canvas. I was trying to figure out if I should use hot glue or E6000 on the canvas. I ultimately decided that E6000 would probably be the better option here. So I'm gonna put some E6000 down and I'm going to place my yarn on the E6000 and cut it at the end. I really wanted my pieces of yarn to be the same size, and I thought about cutting them before, but I ultimately decided that I should cut them on the canvas because once they go over the stick, I was afraid that they wouldn't be the right size. And I just lightly pressed the yarn down into the E6000. Now this is totally a fun piece. You can do different colors, put the yarn wherever you want. I put the yarn in 3 different places on this stick, kind of based on the shape of this stick. Now on my second canvas, I wanted it to look completely different. So I had this straight stick and I hot glued that down over on the side of the canvas. From there, I started in the middle, just creating long pieces, and I wanted it to kind of taper down to the edges. I love wall art pieces like this because I can be really creative. I just kind of make up the colors and the patterns as I go. I think these 2 pieces look so great together. You guys are gonna have to let me know what you think of this. I know it's a little out there, but I'd love to know your opinion in the comments. So I'm going to be picking up a couple of the Dollar Tree books. You can get hardback books for only $1, so I grabbed 3 of them. I wanted to customize these books just a little bit, so I'm going to be tea staining the pages. So to do that, you're just going to take any tea bag, it doesn't matter what it is, and then you're just going to put it in some water, and you're just going to rub it along the edges of your book. Next, I'll let that completely dry, and then I'm going to open up the book so that I can paint the outside cover. Now, I wanted them to be kind of a light navy color, and I didn't have that color, so I took two colors I had and mixed them together. I had a blue chalk paint, and I also had ink by Waverly. So I mixed those two paints together, and then I painted the outsides of the books. I went along the edges as well to make sure that I got the edges covered so that when they were shut, it looked nice. When I was at Dollar Tree, I grabbed some of these cool decals that they have. I really love these, and I wanted to put them on the pages of the book. So I cut out some of the designs that I liked, and then to add them to my book, what I did was I held the pages together so that they were really tight together. Then I put the decal down, and then I have this little scraper tool from Cricut, but really you could use anything to put these on, like a gift card or anything to add pressure, and hold the pages together as you're like rubbing the decal on, and make sure you get it completely on before you take off that covering. And I wasn't sure how these were going to turn out, but I think they look really cute. And then I stacked them up in a grouping and love the way they turned out. Lately, I've been seeing a lot of paper mache bowls in high-end decor, and I wanted to try to recreate one on my own. So for this project, I'm going to be using craft paper. I'm going to start by cutting my craft paper down in strips. So I got a large roll from Dollar Tree, and I'm just going to fold it over until I can cut it into smaller strips. Now, don't worry if your strips aren't perfect. They do not need to be by any means. You're also going to need some sort of bowl or shape to mold your paper mache around. So I just grabbed this plastic bowl from Amazon. I'm going to wrap it with a trash bag and then tape it in place. Next, I'm going to create my paper mache paste. So I'm going to be mixing flour with water. You want your paste to be a thin consistency so that it'll hold up as a paste. Next, I'm going to start by putting my strips onto my bowl. So I will dip them into the paste. Then I'm going to wring off any excess paste and I'll add it to the outside of my bowl. I started down at the base and then I kind of wrapped them around the edges and then kind of finished it off at the top. Now with all paper mache, you're gonna have to let it dry overnight before you see how it turned out. I did realize that once it dried, it was a little too white, like I saw too much of the flour, and I wanted it to have more of that brown color. So I went back in and added another layer to the outside. This doesn't hurt it at all. It's just gonna actually make it more sturdy. And then I'll let that dry for another night. Once that dries, I can remove the bowl from the inside. To fill it, I just put some filler down at the base. You can use sacks of any kind. And then I'm gonna top it off with some Dollar Tree moss. And here's how my paper mache bowl turned out. Now, if you guys have been watching my channel for a while, you guys know that I love these containers from Dollar Tree for a bathroom organization. I have one in my bathroom now with a gold lid that I use for all of my lipsticks. They're just the perfect size for a bathroom. So I picked up 3 of them. I started by spraying the lids with 2 coats of a flat black spray paint. Now lately I've been loving a product called Rub and Buff, so I decided which one I wanted to use. I'm gonna use a foam brush to put that around the handle just to make that handle stick out a bit. So I added some cotton balls. I also had some bath salts. I think these would be great sitting out in your bathroom on a shelf or your vanity. Have you ever looked at the soap dishes at Dollar Tree and thought, you know what, these would make really good little trinket trays? Well, that's what we're doing in our next project. I grabbed a black soap dish. I also pulled out of my stash my little half circle beads, and I'm gonna start by hot gluing those all around the edge of my soap container. Then I'm gonna spray paint it with 2 coats of a glossy black spray paint. This would be really cute sitting next to your sink or your nightstand to throw your jewelry or your rings on. One of my favorite items I was so excited to find were these black and white baskets. When I saw these in the organization section at Dollar Tree, I was like, okay, I'm grabbing these. I love having these kind of baskets to organize underneath my sink in the cabinets, and I just love the color of them. I wanted to personalize them a little bit, so I grabbed one of those little palettes they have at Dollar Tree, and I didn't really have the right tools for this, but I just went with it. I just started pulling the pieces of wood off, and then I used my wire cutters to cut them in half. Now, if I would have been at home, I probably would have used a saw, but you know what? I just kind of went with what I had. So I needed 3 of these little wood pieces. Next, I drilled a hole in the top of them so that I could hang them. And then I went in with the stain color Golden Oak and just stained them. I just do 1 coat with my foam brushes and immediately wipe it off with a paper towel. I let these dry completely because you don't want to add any labels on because they're not gonna stick. But while they were drying, I went into Cricut Design Space and all I did was just type out in some of my favorite font some different words like scrub, wash, hand, and I was meaning like washcloths and hand towels for those. I sent them to cut on my smart white vinyl. I just weeded them out and transferred those onto my wood pieces. I used a little bit of twine to tie them to the baskets. And then from there, I just put in washcloths, hand towels, and little loofah scrubbers. I just think these look so nice and you would never know that they were from Dollar Tree. So I tend to get a lot of inspiration at Dollar Tree just by walking around and what I see. And sometimes when I see something really great, I'm like, okay, I have to figure out a project with this. So I found this scarf and of course I loved it. And when I was writing up my notes, I realized that that scarf just looks like the shirt I'm wearing today. So I must just really like that animal print. I wear a lot of animal print, I know. So I grabbed the scarf and I also grabbed this little Christmas Tupperware container. Now, you don't have to have this same Tupperware container. They have several different variations at Dollar Tree that you can use. This was just kind of what I found at the time. So my idea was that I was going to wrap this scarf around this container and make like a little book basket. But when I started to do that, the red was coming through. So really, if you had a clear container, it would work a lot better. So to fix that problem, what I did was just take some white paint. I used the Waverly paint and did 1 coat of paint on this. Now, I wasn't worried about this being perfect. I was just trying to cover up that red so that I could wrap it with the scarf. So next I took my scarf and I cut off one of the ends, and then I started to hot glue it so that the bottom edge was even with the base because I knew that edge was going to be showing, and I just hot glued around the container, making sure that bottom was nice and perfect to the bottom. And once I got to the end, I'm going to hot glue that in place. Now with that top portion, I decided to just tuck it into my bowl. With the excess scarf that I'm not going to use, I'm going to fold it up and put it in the bottom. And this is a great little book basket that you could put in your children's nightstand or sitting out anywhere. So for $1, you get 2 wreaths, which I thought was great, and I thought they were really cute. So I have a container in my craft space that's just all of my greenery, and a lot of it are boxwoods that I've picked up from Hobby Lobby. Some are boxwoods that I've bought at Walmart, and even some from Dollar Tree. So I am going to mix a variety of that greenery and put it down in like the bottom left corner of my wreath. I kind of just keep adding until I like the look of it, and I always like to use hot glue to put the pieces on. Now to hang this up, you can do a lot of different options. I'm going to be coming in with burlap and then another farmhouse ribbon from Dollar Tree, and I'll just hang it up on my door. And this is a really simple and inexpensive way to create a wreath for really next to nothing when you consider how much wreaths typically cost. I found this vase at Goodwill. It was really affordable and I love the shape on it. So I'm going to start by spray painting it with 2 coats of black spray paint. Now you don't need to go out and spend money on expensive vases when you can buy them so inexpensively at the thrift store or Dollar Tree. And to hold them in place, I'm actually going to put some Dollar Tree rocks at the bottom. These are just some black ones I had on hand. To dress it up, I'm going to put a few eucalyptus stems. You can get these anywhere. Mine are from Target. I'm going to take all the eucalyptus and tie it together with one of the rubber bands. The small little clear rubber bands that I bought from Dollar Tree. I'm going to fold them in half, so I'm not even going to have to cut my florals, and put them down into the middle. And here's a look at the black vase.